Welcome. My name is Dr. Michael Matos. You're watching the Staff Room.
Walk in, chest great, we don't play. Staff talk sharp like a quiz on a Monday. Whiteboard wars, yeah, we grade all day. If you can't take that heat, stay out the hallway. Hey, this is the Staff Room. Say it loud, say it loud. The Staff Room.
Let's get into it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Staff Room. My name is Dr. Michael Matos. I am a 16-year veteran educator, instructional coach, intervention specialist, and also author of the book titled How Leaders Motivate Teachers in Real Classrooms, The Practitioner's Guide. You can find it on Amazon or at the link below. And welcome back to the Staff Room. So, recently I heard some things that have been passing through social media about teachers and how they are handling students. This particular instance was a teacher who choked a student. So what I want to do is I want to take a good look at this and have a discussion about it in depth from various perspectives. I think it's important that we make sure that we look in the face of our right and wrong doings, especially when we deal with topics such as education and our children. So I'm curious to how you're gonna react to it. Please leave your comments in the chat, and then let's have a discussion.
We have new information about the West Memphis teacher arrested and charged with aggravated assault for incident involving a student. 56-year-old Tracy Matthews was allegedly caught on camera choking a child at Wonder Junior High School. WRG's Raven Copeland has reaction from a resident who's calling for accountability.
The first thing I want to say is, whenever we're dealing with situations like this in education, it's always a bad thing. I don't care what perspective you take a look at it from, whether you're a parent, whether you're an educator or a leader, it's always a bad thing. We definitely don't want to have to deal with these types of things in our profession. And in many instances, these things in reality are handled with various levels of, I guess, urgency, so to speak. So we'll talk some more about that later. Let's see what's going on.
Tracy Matthews, a teacher at Wonder Junior High School, faces an aggravated assault charge for allegedly putting his hands on a student on April 15th. West Memphis police say the confrontation started in a classroom and was caught on surveillance video. According to the police report, it all started when the student told Matthews, quote, "Bruh, I don't have a computer." Matthews then responded with, quote, "I'm not your bruh, I'm your sir." When the student said, quote, "My bad, little bruh," police say Matthews grabbed the student by his shirt and pushed him against a desk.
They're not supposed to just put their hands on the kids like that because they call him bruh. He is a bruh.
The police report shows
He's not your bruh. I hate to tell you, he's not your bruh. He's your educator, and that's part of the things. That's part of the things that bother me in this day and age, is that we automatically think that we are all equal to each other in terms of the people such as your bosses, your teachers, and your parents. Children are children, and if you're going to educate them, you have to start with making sure that respect is not just given but also reciprocated by the educator.
the student then walked out and was followed by Matthews, who allegedly grabbed him by his neck, pushed him against the wall, and choked him, making it hard for him to breathe.
He shouldn't have never put his hands on a student like that, and he's a teacher too. What kind of discipline that is for the rest
I agree.
of the community, you know?
The student reported the incident to the principal, who then obtained surveillance video and contacted West Memphis police, who arrested Matthews. A resident who lives near the school says he wants Matthews to be held fully accountable.
I think too, in relation to that leader and how quickly he acted, I think that's the best practice in that situation. It's going to get bad, and as you can see, it's starting to make its rounds on social media. That principal's hands were tied. There was no looking into it. There was no thinking about it. He did exactly what he should have done in that situation, and I commend that leader. However, we're going to look a little bit deeper into that situation after this.
And what he should do is just be fired and be put in jail for disciplining the minor. Anger should be left at home.
So this gentleman said something I thought was interesting. He said he should be fired and put in jail for disciplining a minor. I want to be very I warn everybody to be very careful when you say things of that nature, because minors need discipline. The manner in which he disciplined this minor wasn't acceptable, but we need to make sure that using the words discipline and children are used frequently and often, eh, because that is a part of what it means to raise kids as parents. They need structure and they need discipline. Anybody who says different is lying to themselves. This whole new soft parenting movement is, to be quite honest, it's changing the way children think and the way children react emotionally to things. And we could talk a little bit about that later as well.
And not in the school, not in the workplace.
In a statement, the West Memphis School District says it's aware of the, quote, isolated incident and, quote, appreciates its partnership with the West Memphis Police Department, which helps contribute to the safety of all district schools.
I'm going to stop right there. They're in Memphis. I've taught in inner city schools. I've taught in very high performing schools in well off areas. I promise you that is not an isolated incident. That's happened before. The difference is that it got more media attention in this case, but I promise you that has happened before. Let's just look here, because I know in a lot of cases we like to take things out of context, and that's how the media likes to portray them. But I like to look at some of the things that are also written, because it can be a little bit different in depending on who's reporting. So in this case, people.com says the teacher in Arkansas is accused of choking a student after a classroom exchange over being called bruh developed into a physical violence, authorities allege. Okay, authorities allege. All right, so I was under the impression that they had already seen the video, but Tracy Matthews, 56, was taken into custody and charged with aggravated assault following an April 15th incident at Wonder Junior High School in West Memphis, according to the media outlets. Officers were notified by school administration and later reviewed surveillance footage. There it is. Before detectives launched investigations, the outlets reported. Okay, so here it is. Let's see. According to according to a police report cited by WREG, the altercation began after a student asked for a computer and referred to Matthews as bruh. Matthews responded, "I'm not your bruh, I'm your sir." An exchange then allegedly turned physical, with Matthews grabbing the student by the shirt, pushing him onto the desk, and later grabbing him by the neck and choking him against the wall. So, I mean, it seems pretty consistent in this situation. Okay, in terms of my reaction, it's exactly the way most people would react. I think when you hear that there's a teacher and they're being physical with students, it can be very shocking, because we don't, as educators, that's not it's never our first line of defense when it comes to something as such as disrespect. Before I proceed with my opinions from the various point of views that I think that we should consider based on my experience, I do want to also challenge everybody to look at it in an opposite direction. So last week also there was a teacher that was arrested for not breaking up a fight. This has been very, I say this has been a discussion that's been had by parents and educators for quite a while. Educators just don't feel safe breaking up fights. Parents are suing. Students will beat the crap out of each other, and parents will sue depending on how you break the fight up. They're really, in a lot of occasions, especially today with social media and the high schools and the middle schools, you're seeing a lot more footage of these things happening. And it's just, to be an educator in that situation, it's you're in a lose-lose situation, to be quite honest. It's really hard to deal with. It's hard to try to think about the best approach in the heat of the moment. I I think that we always should have the student safety at our that should be our first priority, really. So how you handle it should have that in mind. There are sometimes you just you can't lay idle. You just can't do it. You have to intervene. And I promise you, in a lot of states, they're coaching teachers to wait. They're going to radio it in, they're going to call a code, and then they're going to have security come. By then it could be, a minute and a half. So we really need to think about that when we're looking at these situations and how they're being reported, because it's now crossing over into the political world. They're politicians are using this as leverage within their campaigns. Now, okay, so let's look at this from various perspectives here. So the first one is the perspective of a parent. Can't happen. There's a couple of things that strike me, and the one is that the gentleman went from 0 to 60, right? So I'm not your bruh, I'm not your sir, and then he went and he put his hands on a student. Can't do it. As a parent, I'm outraged. As a parent myself of a child with special needs, you'd have to answer to somebody for that. We have to be confident in the places that we send our kids to learn. And that's it, really. From a parent's perspective, that is it. Now, from an educator perspective, not a leader, this is a very tricky situation. I always say, choose your battles. The teachers that I currently coach, choose your battles. I'm not your bruh, I'm your sir. Okay. Sure, little bruh. Now you're going to disrespect me. No problem. What do I have in place in the classroom that I can use to leverage to make my point so that this child does not poison my environment? I want to maintain control in my classroom, but I also want to in most of the cases, I want to uphold the humility of the student, because as an educator, I promise you, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. And that could be a topic for discussion later on. But I will say, let's be honest. The kids are not held accountable, and neither are the parents. I promise you that. It is not happening. You know where it is happening? Private schools. And you know where those private schools are doing as soon as it happens? See ya. They're putting you out and they're putting you right into public schools. It just doesn't happen. What I hear as an educator here is that this child who just outright said, hey, bruh, boo, boo, boo. And the teacher says, okay, I'm not your bruh, I'm your sir. And then he immediately is confident enough to say, all right, little bruh. He knows that he has done these things in the past and he has not gotten in trouble, or he's gotten a slap on the wrist. I promise you, districts have matrices in place that they have to refer to. They also use PBIS. If you don't know what that is, it's positive behavioral intervention system. They have all of these things that take accountability and they manipulate it. Okay, they manipulate it. It's still there, but it takes the accountability and it places it in the lap of the teacher to present different ways to hold students accountable within the school, right? Suspension is not something that happens all the time. I promise you, districts are they're coming down on leaders when it happens, so they don't want to do it. On top of that, educators don't want to deal with the parents. They don't. They're going to call this parent. This parent is automatic. I'm speaking from thousands, and I'll tell you a story. But the parent's going to spin it, put it right into the teacher's lap, and say, "What did you do? Well, how did you connect with the student?" The bottom line is, you can connect with kids, but if they don't have structure, they're going to maintain the same behavior that they started when they came to you. If there's no accountability, there is no change. There is no change. Positive behavioral reinforcement works. However, people forget that the whole entire system is based off of the idea that you've implemented enough positive reinforcers to act as a consequence. It's just the way it works. You don't do this, you can't earn this. That's a consequence. So everything, it operates in percentages, right? Everything's a recipe. There is no one single method to anything in this world. You have percentages of things that need percentages of other things to be successful when they work together. It's just not one thing. And that's the problem with the way that these schools are operating these days, is that there is only accountability one place, and that's in the teacher's lap. Some places have pay for performance scales. The teacher is getting paid more money based off of your student scores. So parents, explain to me how it's smart for a teacher not to like your kid, or not to want to teach your kid, or to want your kid out. Because I can tell you right now, it doesn't matter if they miss school or not. That teacher's still held accountable. I've seen kids in the past that have missed 47 days. And during data chats, the leadership or the administration team would say, well, what have you done to get them here? Or they'll put in little truancy things here and there where it's just more work on somebody else's plate. There's no accountability there. In most cases, students are going to do what they want to do because the consequence is just not, it doesn't align with the infraction. Classrooms are no longer for education; they're for socializing in a lot of instances. Principals and administrations, their accountability is very little, because what happens to that child in that classroom? A principal is an administrative team, which includes an instructional coach, maybe an intervention specialist, an assistant principal, maybe an ESE facilitator or something like that. They're going to spin it right back onto the teacher, and they're going to say, okay, well, here's a plan, or here's what we can do to help. I could tell you what needs to happen. The accountability needs to be way more heavily on the student and the family than it does on the teacher. We have to reestablish the appreciation or the value in education and the value in the teacher. Okay. Right now, I believe there's a study that just came out that said that the current generation is, I believe, 30% or something like that. Don't quote me on this, but they're saying that they're less intelligent than their previous generation, and it's due to various things. Behavior and things like that are one of them. I think that it's a lot to do with culture, to be quite honest, and we have to start looking at that and being honest with ourselves. I have parents, listen, I've seen parents come in angry, right? They'd be angry that their child got in trouble, and when the teacher gets there to have the conversation, basically part of my job is I have to sit in and talk to parents about situations like this. And then I like my job because it's realistic. I get to be honest with parents. So what I've seen in the past, I've seen kids get in trouble, parents come in and they demand answers. But then when you go into their file, they have 47, 50 days absent, 75 days tardy. So that being said, how do you expect your child to fall into or learn the expectations? Because expectations have to be taught. We can't teach a kid if they're not here, right? In this case, I guarantee you this has happened to this student before. He has been getting in trouble for a while. This teacher specifically has had enough of what he has to deal with in his classroom. also, and now, to be fair, he probably is dealing with some other things too, and he just snapped. Everything happens based off of accumulation of other things. It's just the way it works. This could have been prevented if accountability was consistently placed in the proper places. A teacher can only be accountable for so much. Those children don't want to, they're just not going to do everything that you ask them to do, nor are they going to care. I've also seen schools that don't even have grades anymore. They don't even have grades. Why? Because it makes the kids feel bad. Yet, parents will send their kids to a football coach that curses them out daily. And then the parents say, oh, that's good for them. But then you send them to the school with a teacher who's trying to teach them how to read, who's trying to teach them social programming to help them to accept losses and to learn how to cope with failures and to regulate emotions. You got whole teams of people that are trying to do this. Yet when you go home as a parent, you tell that child, I'll call the school and see what's going on. Now, it doesn't add up to me. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Private schools are successful because when these types of things happen, they hold people accountable. They're going to take your money and they're going to send your kid back to a public school, which, to be quite honest, I've been in private and public. Public school teachers tend to be better. They tend to be better. They can do more with less resources. And they have to do that because this is what they deal with every day. They have to be resourceful. We have to be honest here when we're looking at teachers. Teachers are doing they're working miracles in there because they have some of them 26, 27 kids. Out of 26, 27 kids, I promise you, they're going to get to at least 20, 22 of them. Because if not, that's their money. They don't get paid. Let's stop thinking that teachers are purposely doing this to our kids. They get paid for this. So, yeah, I know it sounds a little rantish, but it's the reality of it. Okay. Accountability is no longer a part of our society. Not to the extent of other societies. It's just the facts. Now, from a leadership standpoint, I will say this. In this case, I promise you, this principal knew who this student was. He's heard his name before. He's probably been in his office a bunch of times. This is just my opinion here. And based off of what I've seen, this type of situation doesn't happen to a student that does something once. Doesn't. There's teachers out there that love their kids so much that they have this friendly banter with them. It's far more than you could ever imagine. Teachers really do care about their kids. If we continue to place and plaster the negative ones, which I have a feeling about, my little tinfoil hat and my conspiracy thoughts. If we continue to plaster these negative teachers that have issues in these isolated, quote unquote, instances, then everybody's going to get this interpretation about teachers. But I digress. The principal knew who this student was. He knew who that student's parent was. That student's been in trouble before. The parent has came in before. I promise you. I promise you. Because of that, you have a ripple effect where the teacher does not feel supported. They don't. Therefore, they're not motivated to deal with that child. So the first thing they're going to want to do, they're going to ring the office. They're going to get that kid removed. Your kid is now not learning because the adults in that child's life couldn't get it together. The parent couldn't say, teach my kid. They didn't want to do that. And the principal didn't say, you know what? I'm going to handle this better. And he or she didn't lead from a fearless standpoint. In order to be a leader in a school, you have to be fearless. Things happen. And stay tuned. I promise you, I'll tell you some stories. Things happen and you have to be fearless and you have to make decisions that aren't always going to make everybody happy. You're more likely to be an enemy as a leader than an ally. Great leaders learn how to leverage both. I motivate my teachers because I'm an ally. I motivate my team because I'm an ally. I place accountability where it needs to be placed. And if people come in that want to hold me accountable for something, I know that all I can do is exactly what I've been doing, and placing the proper systems in place and documenting the things that are happening and basically following the matrices of the schools. I take it on the chin. It's part of being a leader. Then I leave the meeting, go back to my teacher, let them know what's been taken care of, and now you can teach from the, I call it teaching from the pocket. You can teach comfortably, and you can teach without that anxiety. This principle didn't do that. At least in my personal opinion, this principle didn't do that. This principle has allowed this stuff to happen before. The teacher has become tired, and therefore this is what happens. Tale as old as time. Seen it. Yeah, I think in this case, what we need to do is start asking questions before we start placing blame. We know this teacher broke the law. This teacher is going to jail. It is what it is. What our job now as educators, as parents, and as leaders is, how do we prevent it to happen again? Or how do we prevent it from happening again? And that's it. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Matos. Please like and subscribe. Purchase How School Leaders Motivate Teachers in Real Classrooms, the practitioner's guide at the link below. Thanks for watching the staff room.
Walk in, chance great, we don't play.